But we're always, Brother Barty said earlier about preaching in the messages that there's nothing new under the sun. And most of the places where we're going to preach, they're not unevangelized. Even if we're starting churches in the United States, has been predominantly, there is at least a Christian heritage, a Christian tradition. We're going to, for the most part, the people that we are appealing to are people, and the people that we're winning are people who at least have a Christian background. Even we win them to the Lord, if they didn't just come from another church, they came from some Christian background. But we'll talk about, most of the time we're going to take somebody else's place. We're going to follow in someone else's steps. And so I'll just say, again, give honor to whom honor is due. And the work and the labor that has been done before us is worthy of honor. And again, integrity is about the condition of our heart. It's not a lip service. It's not just about we're going to do this, you can try that, and when it's not genuine, it's never going to work. It has to begin with a sincere appreciation for the foundation that was laid. On numerous occasions, people have talked to me about my relationship with Pastor Lack. Now, that's all that I have to really bring to the table and bring a comparison. The relationship that I have with my predecessor has been a great one, and I have on numerous occasions not only publicly have mentioned it, but the reason I publicly mention it is because it has come to my attention again and again and again and again. I ran into somebody yesterday. I've been here 23 years. Been 23 years since this church had another pastor, and I ran into somebody yesterday who asked me if this was the church that Lonnie Like pastored at. And so here I am 23 years later, I am still, and the impression that they had, the impression that Lonnie left in the community, the reputation of this church under his ministry has been a good one. He left a good name, and that's why for 23 years, every time that I have come into contact with anybody that says, is that you up there where Brother Lonnie was at? It has always been a good thing. It's always been an asset. Now, some places maybe they can't say that. Some churches, some congregations, some pastoral transitions, that's not been the case. But because I have benefited from the good name and his own integrity, I make sure that in my heart, I'm thankful. Oh, I'm so grateful, and I make sure that I mention it again and again and again. And so give honor. One of the reasons why we have to, of course, we have to because it's the right thing to do, and to recognize that this I didn't build this. I inherited this. The quality of church, the good people, somebody kept together. I am a beneficiary of what somebody else left behind. But listen, the most loyal supporters of that previous pastor, as well as his detractors, are watching very closely to see how we will assume leadership. And so those who were loyal to that previous pastor, they're watching the words that we say, they're watching our attitude, they're watching our relations, they're watching us because they're wanting to transfer their allegiance. But they're not going to betray the man that was loyal and faithful to them. And so you're going to have to earn it. And those detractors, they're also watching. And if we give ear, listen, the same people that will talk about your predecessor are the same people that are going to talk about you. If you give ear, what you're doing is you're telling them, you know what, it is okay to criticize the pastor around here. It is okay to talk about his shortcomings. It is okay to bring disunity and disharmony. We're giving them permission. So be very, very careful. I know now why you guys kept pulling at that thing. Be very, very careful how we talk about and our predecessor and how we feel about the predecessor. Give the credit where the credit is due, and if there's criticism that's due, just withhold it. Just keep it private. Another thing I want to just suggest: keep in touch with your predecessor. Keep in touch with him. He can be the biggest asset to your pastoral ministry. He can be your dearest friend. Keep in touch. Now that doesn't mean you have to call him every time there's a church problem and say, listen, how did you get through? He probably doesn't want to hear that, and that's probably not going to be in your best interest either. But staying in touch, keep that relationship intact. I promise you, if you follow the good, you're going to have to work with him down the road. So stay in contact. Brother Like and I have done numerous funerals together. I should have stopped and counted before I came. We've done numerous funerals together. We've got at least a dozen more that we will do together. The church members that are in my church that Brother Like pastored before I got, that are getting older. There are more funerals out there down the road that we will do. That we have ministered together. We have labored together again and again and again. There's been something that's taken place. The first handful of funerals that we did together, generally I took a role where I would read the obituary, I'd say a few words, have some remarks. Pastor Like would bring the message. There's been a shift. I don't know exactly when it took place, but there's been a shift, and now for the most part, I'm preaching the message. Brother Like is coming back to talk about memories that he had when he pastored them years ago. He's sharing a few words, and that role is changing. He probably will preach another funeral or two that I participate in, but for the most, it is shifting, even with those members. But what I'm saying is, you're going to have to continue to work with that man. And I've made numerous phone calls to Pastor Like when somebody was sick. There was a pillar in the church, that somebody that I know that he pastored for many years, had a strong relationship with. I've made phone calls to make him aware that somebody was in the hospital, they were sick. If there was a death in a family that I thought that he would want, I'd make a phone call to make him aware. Keep this family in prayer, and be sure that you stay connected. He's going to be an asset to you, and then invite him back to preach. Bring him back. There are people in your congregation who love him, and especially early on, those in that congregation who have not yet been able to accept the transition. They may really appreciate. They may greatly appreciate the opportunity to have him back for a return visit. There's going to be you're going to be people that are new to you. They're going to be one to your ministry. They're not even going to know him. I've been pastoring 23 years. This is not the same congregation that Brother Like left. Now, there are members that have been here all of that time, but there's a lot of new members. There are people in my church that Ronnie Like never pastored. And so they don't have the same revere, respect, or he didn't bury their loved ones or marry their children or dedicate their babies or this and that and the other. They don't have that personal connection, but those kind of people will admire your generosity. They'll appreciate the fact that you recognize this ain't your show, and so it'll continue to build unity in your congregation. Now, what about when you're the predecessor? When it's time for you to step out of a pastoral ministry and someone else come into your place. Let me say, first of all, the number one step is to genuinely pray for your successor. One of the reasons that Brother Like and I know is because, number one, I had nothing but admiration and love. Of course, he had been my pastor for the previous year, and he still continues to be my pastor. He has helped me in so many ways. But I've not had one conversation with Brother Like in 23 years. Not one conversation in 23 years that he didn't tell me, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for the church. And it's not lip service. I really believe he's praying for me and he's praying for the church. You cannot pray for your church, pray for your kind. You cannot pray on a regular basis, lift them up in prayer, cover them with prayer, and have a bad attitude about. I mean, it's going to work itself out. I mean, if you're genuinely praying for your success and praying for your successor and praying for his success, then your attitude will come into line because you've been in communion with God, and you'll rejoice. Brother Light was here at our homecoming service a few weeks ago. And I had invited him, to the service, and his daughter, of course, had been talking on social media for a couple of months about wanting to come, and see her friends, and I said, I'll let you know as soon as I schedule homecoming, and so I did, and she'd made plans to come, and Brother Lon and Sister Linda happened to have that Sunday morning was open, and so it worked out well, and they came. Of course, we had them come and sing and honored him that morning. But after the service was over, we had a good crowd, had a good attendance. But again, through that affirmation upon me, so Linda and I talked about it going back across the mountain. How thankful we are to see what God is doing, see the blessings. Be that kind of predecessor, to continue to see the good things that are taking. Everybody's not going to do things the way you did them. There are going to be some changes, and I'm sure, Brother Like has never had a conversation with me where he asked, "Why did you do? Why did you do this? Why did you do this different?" A few years ago we remodeled